everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a little bit since I kind of showed you my workspace, other than you can kind of see it behind me in the videos, right? But I thought give you guys a quick glimpse of what's actually going on the bench. And then I want to talk a little bit about my wet sanding process. So let's spin this thing around and I'll give you a quick view of what is happening this weekend. All right, so we finished the Fiat. All right, so we finished this model right here. It's done. However, I can't show you. Myself, Jody Doyle, and Tim Ryan are all building the same kit, and we have a plan to debut them at the Classic Plastic Show in October. So Jody doesn't want to show his final progress. He doesn't want to see my final progress. So there it is. It's done, but you can't see it till October, which is fine, because we're working on, by the way, clean bench. Yes, my friend Matthew Inman made a reference to me asking if he was going to keep his new work area clean and tidy. He said he was going to do his best. I chuckled. Anyway, this is my work area, and yes, I legitimately have OCD. It has to be clean. I do clean it, not every week, every day. So, but anyway, we're working on the Firebird now. So we got that stretched out right there. And, you know, you can look around. There's the 3 kits that we're picking from. Those, the response to that video is amazing. Keep it up. We're gonna let those roll for a week, and then I will go in and count all the votes, and then heart and respond to some of your comments. There's the shelf. This is my, you've seen that area anyway. This is the other work area, and as you can see, it's very clean and tidy. Oh my goodness. So there's my wet sanding stuff laid out. We're going to talk a little more in depth about that. I can't do a actual, while I'm, you know, like a wet sanding, like do it in front of the camera. As of right now, I do that in my master bathroom. And A, I can't, there's no room in there to set up a tripod. B, Heather's not around to hold the camera. So my goal for next year is to build this out, right? So this is an old recycled countertop from work, and my goal is to build it out. That is, I used to be a mechanic. That is my tool cart that I used to, you know, unload all my tools out of my big toolbox into that, and then I'd go and do the jobs I needed to do. Anyway, and of course, my refrigerator. I'm going to build that out and put a sink right there. The plumbing for the master bathroom is actually right behind that wall, and the drain runs right underneath me right there and goes that way under the floor. So this is the perfect place to put a little prep sink type deal, and I can do my wet sanding there. But anyway, that's the goal for next year. Let me flip this around and we'll talk a little bit more about this stuff that's laid out. All right, hopefully that didn't make everybody too sick. And I noticed that as I was pointing to things, the camera tried to focus on my hand and not what was in the back. So I apologize for that. But anyway, we have some of my wet sanding stuff laid out here, and I thought I would talk a little bit about where I got the stuff that I use, and the process that I use. So we're moving on to wet sanding the Firebird. So this is clear coated, but it needs to be wet sanded. So it's probably going to be really hard to see. Yeah, it's going to be hard to see, but there's dust in this section of the roof there, and there's some very fine specks of dust across the trunk. no matter how hard I try, I can never not have dust in my paint jobs. I think that's a common problem, though, with everybody. But anyway, so the wet sanding process, I have these. So first off, I get my stuff from Micro Surface Finishing Products. If you go to their website, I will do my best to link it in the description of the video. It's a very it's a fairly large website. There's a lot on it, and you have to specifically know what you're going after. So I use hobby grade. It breaks it down. It'll tell you hobby grade, and then it'll ask you what you're doing, right? So they have hobby grade for plastics and paint, metal, all kinds of stuff. So you got to really know what you're looking for. So if you go and you decide to buy some of this stuff, you want hobby grade plastics and paint is what you're looking for. And they sell entire kits that have multiple types of paper at multiple grits. I actually use a very specific set of things. So I don't order the kits. I usually just order 1 or 2 sheets of what I need at a time. And so this is a 3600 grit soft pad. The fine folks at Micro Surface Products, Finishing Products, sent this to me to try out. So that was really cool of them. Didn't ask. They just threw it in my order. So that's a 3600 grit. I'm going to give that a shot. 3600 grit. You know, that's a lot of people will wet sand with that, their finishes, and that's great. If it's anything lower than say 3200, I start over, because 3200 is pretty rough. But I don't think I'll wet sand with this. I'll find something to do with this anyway to try it out. I get my paper. It comes in these types of sheets right here. So this is a 12,000. Yes, I wet sand out to 12,000. A lot of people say why, but it's my process and it works for me. So it's a fabric wet sanding. You can see it's labeled on the back, 12,000. That comes in very handy. And for instance, I got 1 sheet of that. Obviously 12,000 is not going to wear out very quickly, right? So, but I also got 8,000, 6, and 4. And I got the most of what I got, obviously, is the 4,000. That's the paper that does all the work. And I take these sheets, and I learned this trick from Tim Ryan, actually. Take these sheets and I cut them into pieces this size. And that's what I use. Excuse me. And write 4,000 on the back of it so you know what grit you've got. Then I got myself a little bowl. And again, I do this in the bathroom because I have a sink right there that I can rinse with. A lot of people will use a bucket of water. They'll sand right at their bench. I prefer, because it can get messy, I prefer to have the faucet there so I can, after each sanding with each grit, I can rinse it off, and it's right there. So I take a bowl like this, I put a little bit of Dawn dish soap in it, warm water, and usually I change the water out maybe halfway in between. So I'll use a 4,000 first, which is, one of these. You can see fits perfect in there. Get it nice and wet, soapy. I'll do 4,000 and 6,000. Change the water because it gets cold, and you're getting particles from the clear coat or the paint or whatever into that water as you're rinsing your pad. I change the water at least once. And I go 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, and 12,000. And I let the paper do all the work. I don't bear down You just let it glide, and you can tell the difference as you're going. You'll be able to tell, you'll be able to feel it getting smoother, believe it or not. That's the process for that. Like I said, this has got 2 or 3 coats of clear on it. And I'll go over and I'll get the dust out of it. Same with the hood. And then polish it up. And that's a whole different process, believe it or not. So I will, maybe I'll go over that in another video. But I just wanted to, I've had a couple of people ask me where I get my stuff, and I thought it would be neat to show you guys before I chop all of these up and put them in their respective places, what it looks like when I get it. So that's what I get. And again, I'll put the description, I'll put the website in the description. And I can't stress this enough. When you go there, make sure you're looking at hobby grade paper, because hobby grade paper, the grit is different than regular sandpaper. Even like a Body Shop wet sanding paper, I believe the grit is different. So it is what it is. It's my process. I figured I'd explain it to you. Real quick before I go, 48-hour group build is coming up. So next weekend, the Sunday live crew, we're going to be doing on Sunday the 13th. Yes, Sunday the 13th. We're going to do an extended live. It's going to run for probably from somewhere between noon and 1 until 8 p.m. That's going to be on my channel and the Scale Model Outlaw channel. Jump in there, check out what we're doing. We're all going to be striving to get to the finish line and have a completed model when we get there, which will be fun. A little snag that I ran into, the kit that I picked, the Lotus, I opened it up and looked through it real quick when I was trying to decide what I was going to build. Didn't appear, it looked like it was all there. And then I looked through it again 2 days ago, and it is, in fact, missing some parts. So, my very good friend Brian from BG's Model Workshop he works at Heaven, basically. He works at Andy's, and he found another kit, a new one, and he's shipping it to me. Hopefully it gets here this week. But if it doesn't, I have a backup plan, and we'll talk about that on Friday. It'll be a surprise on what I'm building, but I do have a backup plan, so look for that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Check out everything linked in the description of the video. They will appreciate it just as much as I will, and I will see you on the next video. Whatever that might be is up in the air. I usually have these things kind of planned out, and I don't. This weekend is kind of we're winging it. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, and I'll see you later.